Welcome to the Beauty in Burnt Toast, the podcast where we celebrate the crispy, chaotic, unexpectedly beautiful parts of life. I'm Jade.
And I'm Jamie. We're two women doing our best to live with purpose, laugh through the mess, and talk about the stuff that no one puts on Instagram.
Here you'll find real stories, unfiltered conversations, and reminders that perfection is overrated, but showing up, that matters.
And whether you're building a business, raising humans, chasing healing, or just trying to remember what day it is, you belong here.
So pour the coffee, reheat the toast, and let's get into it. This is the Beauty in Burnt Toast. Welcome to another episode of the Beauty in Burnt Toast before the ballot. Getting to know your mayoral candidates. This is a 3-part series, and today we have with us incumbent current mayor Randy Garrison. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. So tell us just a little bit about yourself and your journey so far.
Well, that journey has been 63 years. I was born in Hartselle. I've lived here my entire life. My wife and I married in 1986. She is also from Hartselle. Our families go back several generations. So we're Hartselle, born and bred and through and through.
Yeah, through and through.
Blood, yes, through and through. We have 2 sons. My oldest son, Jordan, is a pharmacist at UAB. My youngest son is a civil engineer at Bradford Engineering in Birmingham.
Oh, wow.
He actually was the project manager for the Protective Stadium. So I kid him about if it falls down, it's his fault. So, anyway. But we have 4 grandchildren. We have 2 granddaughters and 2 grandsons, ranging age from 4 to 2 months.
Wow.
Before I was mayor, I worked at the Hartselle Inquirer for 14 years. So it was a good experience to do that. I've always, most of my working life has been in and around Hartselle. So it's
I don't think I knew
fun.
you worked for the Inquirer.
I did.
What exactly did you do?
Well, I started out in advertising sales, and then I ended up as publisher. So
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So we are going to start with just a quick Q&A. So quick fire. You ready?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. What's your favorite local spot?
Okay. I don't know. Maybe as a man, I thought about food. So that's where
Of
I went
course.
to. So I guess my 2 favorite places, and we frequent there a lot, is probably the Freight House and Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Now, we got a lot of good restaurants, but that's where we kind of land.
Freight House, I feel like, is a Hartselle staple.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I
Pizza
love
Hut's
Pizza
my good
Hut's.
too. Yes, I do too.
Freight House has the best cakes. Have you tried their cake?
I have.
Yeah.
They did our wedding. They did our wedding, especially the groom's cake was peanut butter chocolate.
They did
Like
wedding
chocolate.
cakes.
My-
They did our wedding cake.
Are you serious?
Yes. So we had different groups. So we had like the strawberry and the lemon on my table.
Yeah.
And then we had his was like chocolate and red velvet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Ooh.
The strawberry is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, mine too.
Oh, it's
Or the
so
the
good.
Italian wedding cake.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Or the big brownie with all the ice cream
Or
and the
anything.
chocolate. And
Or anything. Just bring us all the food. We're starving in here.
we're going to go run another mile.
Okay, so you said you used to be at the Hartselle Inquirer,
Yes.
but what was your first job ever?
My first real, I guess, paying job, not counting mowing yards and
Yeah.
stuff as a teenager, but I worked at, it was then CNS Grocery. Now it's Hometown Market.
Oh, yeah.
I think half of Hartselle worked at CNS growing up
Yeah.
for the Clemens family.
I love going over there if I don't want to be seen. Like, if I'm going to get groceries and I don't want anybody to see me, then I go to Hometown.
I love the Hometown Market. I love a neighborhood market.
I do too.
I mean, there's a place for chains and the things, but I love a good neighborhood market.
It is. It's good. It was. It's fun. Met a lot of people.
Yeah.
What is one thing that people might not know about you?
This is probably what I think about most is probably in my early 30s, I seriously felt like I was being called to the ministry.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
It was, it was a good time in my life, but it was something that I felt like I was being called for.
Yeah.
And I even started the part about maybe going to seminary.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the ministers at First Methodist, he was kind of counseling me, and we were talking about it. And he said, I'm going to give you a hint, and I'm going to tell you something that may sound completely different from what you're expecting. If you can find some other way to work out your ministry without doing the ministry, do it.
Wow.
I was about to say, when you think about politics, you definitely do not immediately go to this is your service, this is your calling type thing because of politics can be just so all over the place. But when you do it correctly, and it does, and you do show the Lord's love in all the ways that we're called to be Christians, that's a huge ministry, I'd say.
You're not called to be a politician. You're called to be a public servant.
Right.
And that's where we've lost our way.
Absolutely.
That's good. Yeah. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Fake people.
That's a good one.
Absolutely.
Be who you are. The best compliments I have gotten in the 9 years I've done this is people come up to me and say, "You are the same person you were before you came here."
Yeah.
I said, "Who else am I going to be? I don't want to be anybody else." I would forget who I was supposed to be.
Right. Oh, shoot. What did I tell them last? Who am I in this?
That's just not who I am. I'm who I. This is me. What you see is what you get.
I always tell people, I'm like, if you want honesty, you can come to me because I will give it to you.
Right.
You might not like it, but I'm going to tell you the truth for sure.
Just this week, everybody, not everybody, but a couple people in the office was like, "Gosh, you're so spicy and sour today." I was like, I am just speaking truth.
Yeah.
People are not used to it. Everybody gets their feelings hurt over just honest truth.
Yeah.
But there's a way to do that truth in love.
In love and kindness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
But people have forgotten that.
Yes.
Right.
People have lost their joy.
Yes.
They really have.
Because there's
compassion.
There's a difference between joy and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
God did not promise us happiness.
That's true.
But He promised us joy.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So, leading into that, do you feel like you get joy from being mayor?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How does that feel you?
99.9% of the time.
Oh, yeah, because there's that tiny, tiny little hard part that
Yes.
can be joy-sucking, I'm sure.
It can be. But, I made up my mind many years ago. People are not going to take my joy.
Yeah. That's good.
We have so much to be thankful for. We are so blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I traveled across the state when I was president of the League of Municipalities in 23.
Mm-hmm.
And, we are so blessed here. You see, you go through some towns and their downtown's boarded up.
Mm-hmm.
Literally boarded up.
Sad.
And, we have so much to be thankful. We have an awesome school system. We have great police force.
Mm-hmm.
We have great park and rec. Could they use some upgrades? Yes. But, overall, we are a blessed community.
Yeah.
And I share all the time, we live in a bubble, and I am thankful for that.
Absolutely.
It's hard to keep your joy, but it's very important.
It is.
To keep people from stealing that from you.
It is. You can't let people steal your joy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with criticism?
This probably doesn't sound very well. I consider the source sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I think I shared this earlier with you, and I'll share it again.
Mm-hmm.
He who knows the least knows it the loudest.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And now they put it on social media.
Yeah.
And, if someone wants to share or think something maybe you could have done differently and come and share, but bring an answer, bring a solution.
Yes.
But, our society now wants to be more just negative about whatever you do. Mm-hmm. And that's not the way and I'm not saying that's a small percentage. I don't mean that.
Oh, right.
It's a small percentage of folks.
Right.
But, we have to find a way to work through things. And, you can't, everybody is not going to always like what you do, but you have to take the overall big picture and make your decisions that way. And, and I pray a lot about things, if somebody, and you have to have thick skin. You have to learn to have thick skin. Mm-hmm. It's, and not take things personally, but sometimes it's difficult not to take things personally.
We talked about that on our last podcast. I mentioned that I had read a book called Unoffendable, and I highly recommend it to everybody because it just gives you a different perspective on you don't always have to take things to heart. It's not always about you, and it's not yours to take on.
You're right. I hadn't thought about that. I need to read that book.
It's so good. I think Brent Hansen is the author of the book, and it really makes you think about things that just are irrelevant. Like, why should you take on somebody else's hatred or somebody else's bad day when it doesn't have anything to do with you?
Well, when you take all that in, when it sits in there, it makes your heart start hardening.
Yeah.
And then it's not what you take in your body, it's what you put out. But then it's easy to flow back into that and want to spew out that. And you can't do that. That's not what we're supposed to do. You got to let the Holy Spirit take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing that we said before, and I repeat this in my head all the time, is hurt people. So when someone's trying to hurt me, I just think, what could be going on in their life that they're acting like this?
Yeah.
And there's been over the 9 years, I've had to make some tough decisions, things that affected people.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yes.
But that I can remember, and I'm 63, so maybe my brain can't click off, but I'm thankful to be 63, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is you learn there's very few real decisions that I made that I don't pray over until I can find peace with it. Now, it may take a while sometimes. But, if you will pray long enough, he will give you the answer.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it's not what you want.
No, sometimes it's not. And, and especially when it affects people you know.
Yeah.
That's what's really is hard.
It is.
But like I said, you go back to the thing, you got to look at the big picture. What's best for the long run, the long term. It might be hard right now, but in the long term, it'll be better.
Right.
I think being mayor is definitely a calling for sure.
I struggled with it when felt like it was something being called before. When I was thinking about it, going through somebody brought it up to me that you ought to think about that.
Yeah.
I thought, well, to start with, I can't take that big a pay cut. I'll be honest.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Because I was doing well at the paper, and there's nothing wrong with being prosperous or being, financially secure. I think that's something we're supposed to look after our families.
Yes.
But, it was a pretty big pay cut. And something I thought, and I covered the council and, proceedings, and I kind of had a little bit of an idea, but you don't have any idea of what you're really going to do. But it is a calling. I struggle with if this was what God was asking me to do. And, one morning I got up and I said, Lord, I got to have a sign. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I got to have a sign.
Yeah.
I got to know. Well, I was on my way to a meeting that morning, and he answered my question. Now, people say, well, did you really hear God? Yes, I heard what he said.
No, when he speaks, you know.
Oh, you know.
Never forget this.
Well, it
moment.
happened the same way this time. I was struggling with whether or not I needed to keep going. And I was, not, and my wife, she said, do you want to continue to do this? Or do you want to, she's retired. So, she said, we could do other things. And I was struggling with it. One night I couldn't sleep. And I found that if you can't sleep, you need to be praying. Don't need to sit there rolling and tumbling, getting on Facebook. Pray, you'll get more out of it. and again, the Lord spoke to me. And y'all may think I'm crazy, but I heard it.
Yeah.
That he said, it's not time to walk away. So
No, that's
that
good.
was my answer.
Listen, I won't ever think someone's crazy when they say they hear from the Lord. I believe it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Now, we didn't see the burning bush, but,
So, big question. What do you love most about Hartselle?
I would say probably the people, the history. I love to read about the people that started Hartselle and what it was before and where we've come and where we're going. Hartselle's built on a strong foundation, and it's just a firm foundation. I guess a firm foundation would be it. And one of the things that I share with people Hartselle is a faith-based community. One of the first economic development classes I went to in 2016 talked about how important that was for growing your economy. Well, most people are not going to share that with you.
Right.
Being a faith-based community is important. You can't throw a rock and not hit a church in Hartselle.
Right.
So you got no excuse not to go to church.
Right.
It's amazing how many people, though, want to come to Hartselle because of that field. I had clients recently that were looking at Florida, and they came and stayed with some friends in Hartselle and just fell in love. But it wasn't the town; it was the people. It was the smiling faces, the waves. Like, you go up north, and you don't necessarily experience that as much.
No, people look at you strange if you hold the door open.
Yeah, right.
Well, when we redesigned the logo for when we moved in the new city hall, we needed a new logo for the side of the building. And I was tasked with coming up with the designer said, I need 5 nouns that describe Hartselle. Faith, family, community. I should have remembered the other 2. Faith, family, community, home, and H.
Yeah.
The H.
Yes, and it looks so good.
Well, and you know what? That's folded hands helping each other. That's what that means, reaching out to help.
Yeah, that's what our Mayor House logo is. It's folded hands like this, helping.
So
Interesting.
So community is the people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like you remember the thing about the church when you were growing up. It's not the steeple, it's not the building.
Oh, it's the church.
It's the people.
That's what Hartselle is. When you open it up, it's the people.
Yes, that's good.
Oh, that is good.
What motivated you most to run for mayor? I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but dive a little more into that.
Okay. Back in 2016, of course, when I was at the newspaper, especially after I was a publisher, I used the paper to support Hartselle. I don't look at journalism always is you got to be the dog to dig up all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You can find good things to say.
Yeah.
And so I tried to promote the city and the people and the school system with the newspaper. Find good stories. Tell people's stories.
Yeah, right.
And you can always, I had to write a couple of stories that were not, I mean, they were news, but it was just not the greatest thing. But I found a way to do it without making the people, without just tearing them apart.
Yeah.
Because, none of us, don't throw stones if you live in glass houses. And we all have a glass house, if we want to admit it or not. But that, and, I kind of got to the point that I kind of felt like I had gotten as far as I could go with the paper. And I felt like we were just, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Hartselle didn't have the money to do a lot of the things that we can do now. And we were kind of just on a teeter-totter sitting in the middle. Well, you can't stay, you're not going to stay that way.
No.
So you're either going to go backwards or you're going to go forwards. So I wanted to find a way to move Hartselle forward.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing that I said is one of my top goals was to get people to be happy and proud of where they're from. And I think we accomplished that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
Did that
Love
answer that
where you
question?
live.
Yeah, no, you're good. Right.
But to make it, you want to leave, we're all tasked with making the place we're at better than the way we found it.
Right.
Now, that's not saying you're bad, but moving forward leave it for the next generation. You can't stay stuck in one place.
No, it's about legacy.
Right. You're going to be in quicksand.
Go ahead.
You go.
When have you felt most connected to the community?
Okay, do y'all remember back in 2020 when COVID hit and they shut down everything? You couldn't go to church. You kind of you had to get your groceries picked up.
Yes.
We even let people work every other day, at the city, or people didn't go into the office. And I talked to a lady, and their neighborhood was getting together, and they would just stand in their driveway and pray. So I called her and I said, would you be okay if I tried to do that citywide?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's still,
That's good.
And then we sang Amazing Grace at the end of it.
Ooh.
And the fire department played Amazing Grace with the horns and the sound. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get it, but that's what it's about.
Oh, I love that. I didn't even know that happened. Everybody should shout that from the rooftops.
We asked everybody to meet at the end of their driveway. We were supposed to gather.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get it. But anyway, and just pray.
Oh, that's so good.
And I said, it didn't matter if you did the old Amazing Grace or the Chains Are Broken Amazing Grace, whichever one you wanted to do, But it was, that was an awesome, I think we really connected, and I think it made a difference.
So many people hated COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was a horrible time, but it brought about a lot of closeness, too.
It really did.
Like, our neighborhood even had, all the kids come out and draw on the sidewalks.
Yeah, we did the
up
same
to
thing.
I mean, that
Yeah.
was so much fun.
We did that.
But, no, I wanted to say one of the things I appreciate most about living in Hartselle is Christmas time and the fire truck that drives around to all the communities, and you dress up like Santa
Oh, I love it.
and have the Grinch. That is so much fun. The kids love that.
Well, and and that's an idea borrowed from somebody else. They said there's not any new ideas, you just recycle.
Yeah.
But my wife's brother and his family live in Hoover. Well, right before, I guess it was 2016 or something, we were down there, and he comes right through the neighborhood waving at everybody. And so right after I was elected, my mom said, why can't you do that? Well, I called the fire chief, and he said, yeah, we can do that. But would you believe there were some people critical of that? Why would I waste city funds riding around,
To bring joy.
And of course, somebody else was, I don't know if y'all know, Mike Swafford was the Santa Claus for a while until we split up. Yeah, he was Santa Claus. And so we talked about that. And the first year, I guess I can tell this, he won't get mad at me. The first year, we thought we can do it in about 2 or 3 hours on Christmas Eve. Well, he got home at 10 o'clock that night. And, he had little kids then.
Yeah.
So, I thought he was going to come live with me. But anyway, then after a while, it got to where it was bigger, we were trying to do more. And so we kind of split it up. Most of your audiences, so we don't have to tell people. Sounds magic. You've been 2 places at one time.
Yes.
Right.
But it is so much fun to do that. I did have one guy that called and cussed me out and called me a really bad name.
Because of that?
Because of that.
I can't understand. I don't understand people that way.
For the kids.
Well, it's joy.
Yes.
He said it was making too much noise. But anyway.
Oh my gosh.
It's so exciting, and I mean, it doesn't.
It's Christmas
You're there for 5 seconds, and you're gone.
Gone.
So
Well,
yeah.
it's what's funny. We were talking about COVID, that because nobody could do like Easter egg hunts and all that stuff. So Linda Fox, I don't know if she just recently retired from the police department. She said, "What do you think about us doing the Easter Bunny like we did Santa Claus?"
Yeah.
So we rode all over town on the fire truck. She dressed up the Easter Bunny, and it got hot. She almost had a heat stroke. But anyway, what was funny is there were older people running out to see it to wave. So.
All right. So this show is all about finding the beauty in the messy parts of life. So share with us a burnt toast moment that you've experienced.
Okay, this one is kind of deep, but it's something that I have, and I struggled with it for a long time. But this has been many, many years ago, that I had come in contact with a gentleman when I worked at the paper, and we talked about everything under the sun. Our kids played ball. We talked about that. We talked about our families. We talked about things we enjoyed. A couple of years later, he took his life. And I never talked to him about Jesus. I never asked him where he was in his walk. And that's I moved on past that, but it took me a long time to do that.
That's hard.
And
That's
I
the
didn't mean that to be
deepest
so deep, but
burnt toast moment to the date.
Yeah.
You can't really top that.
Well, and I don't mean that, it's just,
Yeah.
I felt the guilt.
Because as Christians, that's what we're called to do.
It is. But I've got something else we can share later that will make that seem a little different. Not quite as, and I don't mean that I wouldn't name any names or anything like that, but it just really, I struggled with that for a while.
Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine. We've had a lot of death over the past year or two within Merritt House, and I can see how that would weigh heavy on you. Especially, thank the Lord, we've been really blessed. Everybody here is believers. Everybody has a personal relationship with Jesus.
I don't know that he wasn't.
Right, but still, you realize that. How have you done things differently?
Okay, this may be too much, but I prayed for a lady at O'Brien's the other day. She was struggling.
Yeah.
I could tell.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
You have to get outside of your own skin.
You do. I mean, and I take that very seriously when Jesus says, if you deny me in front of men, I will deny you in front of the Father.
Right.
And I want to get all those check marks in I can. I don't mean that facetious or
No.
disrespectful. But
Well, that's one thing we talk about too on previous episodes is when somebody pops in your head, reach out to them because you don't know what that could mean to them. Or if you're out in public and God says, pray for that person while it's scary, no telling what it could do for them if you react to that.
Because if we're honest, we tell people to pray for them, but what do we do sometimes?
Don't.
We forget.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was in one of our departments one day, and one of the employees was really struggling. I could tell. I mean, I knew his situation. I knew what was going on with him. And he wanted if I'd pray for him. So I just put my arm around him and prayed for him. I got back and I told the HR person, I said, I probably broke some rules.
You know what? That's what I was about to say is I am so thankful that we live where we live, that we are able to do that, to just stop and pray over somebody. Because there's so many people throughout our country and throughout just the United States that can't do that.
That's right. There are places, and and probably just a couple others would be when I have not gone with my gut feeling. My spiritual gift is discernment.
Oh, that's good.
And like the test I've taken, it says it is. But it anyway, it's not following your gut,
right?
And most of the time I've wished I had,
right?
So that was probably deeper than you meant for me.
No,
sorry. That's what we like. We want raw and honest. I mean, that's what this podcast is all about. So we like to ask each person that comes on if they have a favorite Bible verse or quote that kind of gets them through the day. What is yours?
Okay, this is the one that it kind of was, anyway.
We got the fan going, guys. It's hot in here.
In the second part of Luke 12:48, it says, from everyone has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. And God has been so good to me throughout my life. My family, we're healthy. My grandchildren are healthy. I have lived in a place that's one of the most, I can't imagine living anywhere else. Sometimes we think we'd like to live at the beach, but
you can visit and come home.
You can visit and come home. And we're not very far. I think about that. We're 6 hours away, so it's good. But I think we're obligated, and I think we're called to give back, to share what we've been given, and to share our blessings with others.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the other one is, and I don't know, this one just sticks with me. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, John 1:14. Because God spoke this world into creation. And then he came down to take care of us because we screwed it up.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good way to say that.
No, it's true.
That's it.
It's so true.
And then the other one, and this is going back to what I was talking about before, that helped me get through that other situation.
Yeah.
St. Francis of Assisi, I think I said that right, said share the gospel, use words if necessary. So that doesn't mean, we can.
That's how you're living your life.
How you're living your life.
That's how people see you.
Do I mess up every day?
Absolutely.
You know. Now, people take, grace is a license to sin. That's not what I mean.
No.
I think we're supposed to strive to do better. But, because when that person, pulled out from me this morning, I probably thought bad about it.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I didn't wish him to hit him or anything, but,
Right.
So, did you hear that, guys? It's not all about words. Actions are huge and make a huge impact on people.
And that's where I go back to faith people.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so we are coming to an end here. Is there any final words that you would like to give the Hartselle population?
Be thankful for where we are. I go back again. We're blessed. We live in a bubble. And I share this, at our prayer thing that we had a few months ago. That's here. We're where we are because of the people that were here before, that prayed for us, that laid the foundation. The prayers of the people now are keeping us where we are, and they will keep that bubble of protection over us because we are blessed.
Yeah, very much so.
And blessings are not money. I don't look at money as blessings, but the fact that we can sit here and do this is a blessing.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Mayor Garrison, for coming on today.
I
really appreciate your time. The next 2 episodes, we're going to have 2 more candidates. So y'all stay with us and hang in there. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you are voting red, blue, or burnt toast brown, make it count, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
See ya.